Hello, I'm William Gallagher and this is 58 Keys, which as ever, as always, is for writers like you and me who use and write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. Do subscribe because, well, you're going to see in a sec, we have loads to talk about. This is the top 10 of all the videos in 2021. Well, you know this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. To find out the most popular 58 Keys videos in 2021, I asked YouTube, it spat out a spreadsheet, there was number one right to the top. It was not like it was strenuous. There wasn't very much drama. Nonetheless, we are writers. And okay, maybe we dislike contrived countdowns, but we're always thinking of structure and pace and rhythm. So go on, here's the top 10 countdown in reverse order for whatever maximum impacts I can build up. Speaking of building up, rather than building up to number one, because you could just, if you were that curious, you could just skip to the video, skip to the end, couldn't you? How about, rather than the countdown, you look at this as a sampler of 10. There are writing apps here, writing software, I think it's a type. There's a lot here, and everyone has a full link to the entire episode that it's about. So you see something you like, well, just quit this countdown, go watch that. Do subscribe though, because then that'll make it easier for you to find this countdown again and come back. Won't it? Number 10 from October 2021. Number 10 was new MacBook Pros for writers. You could, and I expect you probably did, just watch Apple's announcement of these new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro models, but Apple makes everything just sound great. In this edition of 58 Keys, I think I made everything sound great but expensive. I promise you, writers do not need the new MacBook Pro models that Apple announced this week. We do not. We also don't need pens, do we? We could use pencils. I mean, typewriters are still pretty good. Look, it remains true. The best value Apple notebook for you and me as a writer is the MacBook Air. But the new machines are excellent, and I have bought one. From November 2021, number 9 in the countdown is the 3 Biscuit Guide to Scrivener. And I'm honestly surprised to tell you that, November seems so recent, doesn't it? And that seems so long ago. COVID times. I could tell you the 58 Keys, 3 Biscuit Guides. They're the special, extended, in-depth examinations of one really key, usually a writing app, sometimes a service or a tool. Or actually, since it's just you and me, I could also tell you that the 3 Biscuit Guides take ages. They're the absolute longest 58 keys to make. So, thanks for making them popular and wanting more. So this is Scrivener on the Mac, and actually we're going to concentrate on the Mac for most of this 3 Biscuit Guide. Most of it's exactly the same on the Mac and the iPad, and it's actually just a little handier, a little easier to show you on the Mac. There are little differences, some of them nothing very important, some of them quite handy actually on the iPad. So we'll swap to the iPad to show this, but I'll kind of bunch those together towards the end. As I record this, the next 3 Biscuit Guide is about Apple Pages on Mac, iPhone and iPad. These guides, they come out about every month, nearer to 6 weeks or so, and there's a growing 3 Biscuit playlist for you to check out. But you don't have to wait for the 3 Biscuit Guide to Apple Pages, or you didn't, because back in April 2021, I basically wibbled on at you with 5 power tips for Apple Pages, and that was the number 8 most popular video. You've got to study Word before you write anything. Whereas with Pages, Apple's figures you're a writer. You just want to get on with it. So it presents the bare minimum of what you need in a word processor. Trouble is, it's then very easy to therefore think it hasn't got anything more than the bare minimum. Number 7. Now, Apple Pages, it's meant to be this word processing tool for everyone. But in May 2021, 58 Keys concentrated on a much more specific writing tool. Because, pretty much out of the blue, actually, Final Draft version 12 was suddenly and quite unexpectedly released. Now, Final Draft is a screen or a script writing tool, and as it happens, I'm using it extensively right now on some projects. So I do expect to have a full 3 Biscuit Guide to Final Draft coming. But back then when it came out, for such a popular, an established screenwriting tool, it's surprising how hard it is to find out much about it, or rather to find out enough before you pay over quite a substantial amount of cash. There are startlingly few YouTube videos in any detail about it, for instance, and for another thing, the Final Draft company itself, well, they want you to upgrade, so they make even the tiniest improvement, like a change of spelling or a name, they make it sound like a brand new feature. So my 58 Keys edition is about a specific writing tool was actually even more specific than that sounds, because what I did was I looked at whether or not it was worth buying Final Draft 12 if you were already using Final Draft 11, 10 or earlier. A short version, by the way, if you're on 11, yeah, if you're on an earlier one. Here's the thing that has been the thing since about maybe Final Draft 6 or 7 at the latest. The heart of Final Draft is exactly the same, and it's the heart of it that you really need. There are some issues about you using Final Draft 8 when your studio's using Final Draft 12, but really for writing scripts and screenplays, Final Draft cannot change very much because it's always done what you need. So when there is a big upgrade, it's always invariably to do with the sidelines, the extras, nice things to have. You can picture the developers frantically thinking of something new we can add to this. In September 2021, Apple released a new iPad. And so in August, the month before, I recommended that you buy it. I call it my brilliance, call it my prescience, or just call it that actually what I did was I went over how you choose the best iPad for you as a writer whenever you're looking at any time you're going to buy. The 58 Keys Guide to Choosing the Best iPad for Writers, number 6, and this cut down. It was less about which specific iPad model to get that Wednesday. It was about how to determine which specific model to get whenever you were looking to buy or to upgrade. This video, it sets out to tell you the best iPad for a writer. So yeah, you could just fast. No, don't fast forward. Never eat pears. Even deadly. Yeah, you know, the one thing I miss from the before times, that sounds like before coronavirus, I mean before even iPhones, it's how you're writing, you need to find a word, you go look up a fat dictionary on your bookshelves, and that's it, the afternoon's gone. You've lost hours just deliciously going through those dictionaries, reading every other word than the one you were looking for. Those times, yeah, they're gone pretty much, but way back in March 2021, I enthused at you about the best dictionary apps for iPhone in our number 5 most popular video. Just to prove that iPhones were invented for you and me as writers, they come with a dictionary built in. You just can't find it because actually, although it's there, there's no built-in dictionary app the way there is on the Mac. Instead, iPhones and iPads offer 2 really subtly different ways of getting to the same dictionary definition. I do not know why it's 2 different ways to use Apple's own dictionary, but I do know why. I'm also going to recommend that you use someone else's dictionary app instead. Next, I talked about this in June 2021, and you've been talking to me about it ever since. For number 4, it was 58 keys covering mechanical versus chiclet style keyboards for writers. And actually, the old BBC News guy in me is a bit pleased, actually, because somehow I have convinced a number of people that I use a mechanical keyboard, and others are certain sure I use a chiclet one. I think it's projection, really, it's what they use, but I like the balance there. So, which is better for writers? Mechanical keyboards or the kind of laptop chiclet ones? Well, you start with which is which. This is a chiclet keyboard, and this is a mechanical keyboard. Actually, that might be all you need to know to learn which is right for you. What I really do love, utterly love, is exploring writing software apps. Not all of them, but ones that help me write things, yes. But in fact, I'm conscious that you and we are writers, so we have to actually get some writing done, you know, from time to time. Which does mean that sometimes there are deadlines, there are pressures. I have to resist trying out a completely new writing app. And instead, I'm occasionally able to get my fix by exploring a new feature, an updated feature in an old app. So for instance, I'm a long time user of the mind mapping app MindNode, and in January 2021, which does seem 1,000 years ago now, number 3 in our countdown saw me getting to play with an update to MindNode. Amongst other improvements, MindNode's big advance was to add a text outlining feature to the mind map. So it's a visual map, but you also had a more traditional text outliner. Let me say now, it's not good enough to supplant Omni Outliner, basically my outliner of choice, which is weird since I don't like outlining, but there you go. But depending on how you work, what you write, what you like, MindNode's new outliner is certainly good enough to have a proper play and a consider of. Previously on 58 Keys, I've recommended mind mapping, which means I've recommended MindNode, and I've separately recommended outlining as a way, well, not necessarily of writing your books, but of capturing and organizing any ideas, which means I've recommended Omni Outliner a lot. Now MindNode has been updated, and alongside the very excellent mind mapping, it has added its own outliner. So you no longer need 2 apps, but of course the question is, will you still want 2 apps? So I said a moment ago that in October 2021, Apple announced new MacBook Pro models. Just writer to writer. Many months earlier, I got funding for an arts project that specifically required me to buy a MacBook Pro, and the budget I received was for the then current 13-inch model. I mean, and it would be. I came up with the project plan, I did the bid. There was the UK's Arts Council, actually. They gave me a grant to work on 58 Keys like this, so that we could talk more. They did a lot, I did a lot, but the one thing I kept putting up to the very last moment was buying the 13-inch MacBook Pro, because I was holding out so hard for the rumoured 14-inch one, which has now come. Right at the limit of when I had to conclude the project and report back about the funding and how everything had gone, Apple brought out the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and with much deliberation and much planning, I ordered the wrong one. It was actually comments on the 58 Keys video and also over email about it that got me reconsidering. So as it turns out, the second, I don't know why this would be true, the second most popular episode of 58 Keys in 2021 was late October's edition on cancelling my MacBook Pro and ordering another one. The new MacBook Pro models, they're expensive. I mean, they are so expensive that, you know, that gorgeous funding that you envied a second ago, and so did I, it didn't come close to what I needed to spend. But I suppose if nothing else, that means I put a lot of skin in the game myself. I'm so deeply glad that I did. I can't see how a writer like me can even pretend to justify the cost of a car on these, and I suppose quite rudely actually, I figured you'd be in the same position. I mean, you and I, we're obviously going to be different writers, no 2 writers are the same, but equally, obviously, we use these tools in the same way. We use them to write, and I suppose unfortunately, equally obviously, being a writer tends to mean being on a bit of a budget. So stuff the 16-inch MacBook Pro, I said, and stuff the costly M1 Max, except take a look at this tweet, please. That's from Mike Wortherly, and I know him. I write for him on appleinsider.com, which means as I read that tweet, I can hear his voice saying those words. I can picture his face giving me that look. Fortunately, it works both ways. It also means that Mike can hear my face as I go, excuse me, equivalent price? And now, why am I in that voice? I don't know. The number 1 most popular, most viewed 58 Keys of 2021 was a 3 Biscuit guide to Apple Notes. Here I move my cursor down to the bottom corner, and up comes this little thing. It's a tiny little nugget of a thumbnail of a pixel. Tap on it, and I have a new note. I said that the 3 Biscuit guides, they take a long time to do, but, well, they would, wouldn't they? They kind of have to, because the purpose of a 3 Biscuit guide is to be one video that's comprehensive, and that means that the videos are detailed, and necessarily then that they're long, and also just in the making of it, I have to know the software, the writing app, the tool, whatever it is, really well before I can basically phone you up and say, here, have a guide. I know this software really well. Which all means, just as a practical thing, not able to do a 3 Biscuit guide every day, every week or so. But this one being the most popular, and actually the 3 Biscuit guide to Scrivener being the top 10 as well, yeah, I think that tells me something. And I'm so glad, because basically what you've done is you've meant that I can play with writing apps and say that I did it for you. Back me up on that, okay? Thank you for watching this edition, this kind of sampler edition of the best of 2021, I suppose, on 58 keys. I love that we get to talk like this, you know, writer to writer. Now, take care of yourself, eh? Write more in 2022. And I'll see you soon.